You're listening to The Extraction, conversations on the systems and strategies behind dental practice growth with Colin Ambler and Kyle Bergman. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Extraction podcast. Today, I am joined by Dr. Sharon Blyler, co-founder of Team Care. I am Kyle Bergman, assistant to the assistant of the marketing team, and we have our special guest, Sydney Robinson, who is the founder of Clarity Dental Solutions and a seasoned operations leader who builds culture, she builds systems, and she does training that sticks. I love that. Sydney, welcome to the pod. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. This is going to be super fun. I first want to thank you guys for even inviting me to the podcast. Learning so much about team care has stroked my lady ego. Like I am so giggity about what you guys are doing, and I'm super fired up for this episode.
Oh, heck yeah, Sydney. That's awesome.
I know. I feel like I have 20 questions for her already.
So to kick off, Sydney, I would love to hear the short version of your path from office manager to ops leader to founder. What problem in dentistry did you decide to solve first?
Yeah, ooh, that's a journey. So short version of this is I started off 13 years ago in dentistry, had no experience, but I was a really rambunctious, kind of outlandish kind of kid. So just going in and just not knowing what I'm doing has always been like a thing for me. Going into the dental practice, and my lady jam is solving puzzles. And I get hyper fixated on it if I can't figure it out. So going into an office, not having any kind of like Dr. Sharon with your husband. Wait a minute. Why do you guys do it this way? There, have you guys thought about maybe just not? But, kind of like not having experience working with veteran people, you kind of have to take a step back. And then I was taught a little bit of humility as I grew up. So I kind of worked my way through the practice. But really, what got me to that office manager position was I think that drive that I couldn't let something go. That I really wanted us to be work. I'm all about having fun, working smarter, not harder. If I could not work, then that was all always my goal starting out. The less I had to work on something, instead of taking 45 minutes, I want to take 5 minutes to do something. And so I think that's how I got to an office manager. And then, of course, I was so honored to be able to meet Dr. Mark Costas. I worked with him for now over 8 years, and is what I like to call a serial entrepreneur. So, not only in the dental field, but also just outside of dentistry, with opening up a car wash or starting a new business, software company, new consulting company. And so I went from an office manager, again, because of that drive, and I would hear something that he's doing and instantly, like on YouTube or trying to figure it out, like, hey, got an answer for you. And I just kind of morphed into like that operational leader. And I've learned so much just kind of self taught. Then now, as I am pivoting into a whole new area, I do love working with all of my docs, all of my team members, because I find that in our office, not only is it just the culture side, keeping people, but kind of like what you guys do, where you have those leaderboards, you're able to see all those KPIs, you're fully transparent. I found that instead of me going in as an office manager and creating system and operating procedures and telling them, hey, do this, I found that when I work hand in hand with the team members, and essentially I use my girl tricks to kind of get them to come up with solutions and problems, that they actually stuck and that they actually like was super pumped and excited about it alongside with me. And so I discovered that that was something that really helped. And it wasn't just about giving them fun verbiage or, hey, go in and say this when you're treatment planning. It was asking those questions like, all right, girlfriend, or all right, dude, what trips you up when you're in there and you're presenting? And they'll tell me what that is, and then we'll work through it together. What is it that you hate about this software? What is it that you love about this software? And so when I started asking those type of questions, they were more inclined to give me their feedback. And then we were able to create workflows based off of that. And so Clarity was created about 2 years ago. I was doing like side projects. So like I said, I was working with Dr. Mark Costas with the Dental Success Family. I was the executive director of operations. So if you guys can imagine, it's really hard to say what I do. So here's what I tell people. I'm like your fairy godmother. Whatever it is that you can come up with, idea, dream, goals that you have, my job is to execute it and to make it happen. And then I'm off doing the next little fairy god thing that I can possibly do while putting the team to help. And what's really fun about this and what I've been doing is like we'll build it, we'll create the team, and then we're off to the next project. So I've actually found that that is what I really love, and so I created Clarity, and I've been working not only, of course, team training is our foundation, but what's really get us is that we're operations and project managers. So we will go in and we work with doctors who are like you guys. My full-time job is I treat patients, but I also want to start a software or I'm doing a startup, an acquisition. So we're going to help with that. We're going to get those, I will oversee that, partnering with companies like you or third party companies, overseeing those where it just takes the stress off of the office so that the office manager isn't doing it. The doctor can still see the patients, but then we're going in and we're helping them and we're narrowing that down. So all they have to do is make an informed decision of what works best. So that's kind of like, I know that hopefully that was short enough of like how I got here, where I came from, and all of that good jazz.
Awesome. That's really great, Sydney. Thank you for painting that picture. And you have some great sayings that I discovered when checking out your website and learning a little bit more about you. And you often talk about structure that reduces chaos, which is great
Yes.
because there's no place more chaotic at times than a dental practice. What are some of the first signs that a practice is running on personality instead of on a process?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a really good one. The first sign is when I walk into the office and instead of someone looking up and greeting me and saying hi and they have no idea who I am, either they're not there or they're in their computer and they're trying to figure something out. And that's like that first interaction. And so, if me as a complete stranger walking in off the street, they don't know I'm a patient or not, that's my first sign. If I'm on the phone and I'm like, tell me about your office. What gets you super giggity about your office? And they're like, well, that's my other sign virtually of how I know that it is really just them surviving and just hoping they're throwing stuff at the wall. I don't know if I have to be PG, sorry. They're just throwing things at the wall and they're just trying to make it stick. And so that's the first sign when I know that there's chaos going on in the office where they're just trying to survive and there's no real workflows. And I always say that, and my follow up question to them is if you wanted to go to the beach and you wanted to sip mojitos and you're having a baller time, or maybe you want to go to the cabin in the woods and you just want peace and quiet. If you were to leave for 2 weeks and do that, will somebody like myself be able to come in off the street and at least be able to do bare minimum? And they're like, no, I'll get a bunch of phone calls. So I'll always ask that question too to try to pull that out. And then we can really get into the good stuff.
Sydney, that's so funny you said that because I have 4 kids. Now they're way older. But the one thing that always hit me was if I walked, 3 of them are boys. If I walked in somewhere at a doctor's office and I'm holding 4 people's hands and someone doesn't look up at me, it made me want to cry. Because if you don't look up at me, things might go crazy in a minute. That really hit me that you said that because that is my number one thing. That check in person, that greeter is the face of your office. And if they are not nice, if they do not know who you are before you get there, if they aren't greeting you and they're on the phone or something else, huge red flag. I always say, like, when you walk into a nice store and the person acts like they're doing you a favor, that you're looking at clothes, that is the last thing you want to project. So I love that you're feeling because I used to be so worried when I walked in anywhere. I'm like, I got all these people I'm dragging, you know? I'm just trying to keep
Yeah.
control here.
I talk about personality a lot when I'm working through some of these workflows. And don't get me wrong, I love the GSD. I get super nerdy when we get into like system and operating, but I feel like that patient experience is huge Because even if some people are like, well, I just need my office to just get the task done. Well, we can get those done, but if your patience is just like Dr. Sharon, who they have their 4 boys and they're walking in and they're just like, "I just want someone just to smile at me, just to know that I'm doing something right." You just never know, and I always compare to Disney and Chick-fil-A. Those are like my 2, if you wanna take me somewhere or get me a gift, take me to Disney World, got you, or Chick-fil-A. Get me some chicken nuggets. I'm great. But what I love about it is the actual experience. Someone will always greet you. I've never at Disney had a bad experience outside of just tired and walking too much. When I'm at Chick-fil-A, they ask me how my day is going. They'll just lean over in the little window and they'll just have a whole conversation with you. And
Yeah.
when I think about the doctor or practice or wherever I am, I really look for that because, like you said, Dr. Sharon, it's like, am I inconveniencing you? Should I not be here?
Yes.
So I think that it does start with that first, like, what does that experience? And whenever we're talking about operations and procedures, a lot of times, whether I'm working with a doc in the dental office or I'm working with a doctor's wife who wants to open up a boutique, which I've done that before, which is super
That's
fun.
cool.
My first question is, what do you want your patient or what do you want your client to feel like when they walk in? Because that's going to help us with the foundation of what workflows we need. If we want someone to be able to greet our patients, then I don't want that person on the phone all the time. So if we can avoid them being on the phone all the time, what is it that we can give back? Well, we can implement a virtual assistant. We can implement now we have the AI reception. I don't know if you guys tried that. It's actually pretty cool. But now we could do that where my patient care coordinator can look up and smile and greet that patient by name. We can take a photo. That way, we have a photo of that patient. Even if they are new, we have their driver's license. We can crop that, pop that into the patient file. And now, when Sydney, as a new patient, walk in, oh, hey, Sydney, it's nice to meet you. Because that first question is, what do you want the patient experience to feel like? And I want to be like Dr. Sharon, where I only have one boy, but still crazy. When I walk in, I want to be greeted by name. I don't want to feel like an inconvenience.
That's amazing. And I love how simple you've created a very simple system to identify if this practice is chaotic or if it's not. Now, I also really enjoy the fairy godmother metaphor that you used. And I'm curious if you identify that a practice is working more in a chaotic state than not. If you could wave your magic wand, what's the one system that you think maybe covers 80% of the problems that you see with practices that are in chaos that can reduce drama and raise performance immediately? Let's say, and when I define immediately, let's say in 30 days. Chaotic practice, okay. Sydney has a playbook. What's the thing that you're using most often?
Ooh, that is going to I already mentioned the patient experience, mapping out the patient journey. I would have to say that will be the first thing that I do when I walk into a chaotic office. I also want to make that connection. Usually when an office is chaotic, is communication. It's, I don't know my role, or, hey, I thought, oh, I had one where poor gal, she's like, I was just hired so I can post insurance checks. And the office manager was like, oh my God, no, that wasn't what your role is. But she would not go in and present treatment plans. She would be the last one to answer the phones. And so my thing would be role clarity and understanding. So if we put together the patient experience, mapping that out, what we want our patients to feel like, and then if we could clarify roles and really get to know our team members. Moral clarity isn't just saying Sydney is our front desk. God forbid. Please stop it. Please stop saying that we're a front desk. They're people, and that's my patient care coordinator. My patient care coordinator greets all of our new patients. They oversee the schedule. My treatment coordinator, they are over all of my doctor side of the schedule, my hygiene side of the schedule. They are the first ones to go into the room to present treatment. They're following up on unscheduled treatment plans. They're tracking case acceptance. When we are able to really define that, and then we put the right people in the right seat. So whenever I talk about communication in the first 30 days, if I can clean that up, I want everybody to get to know each other. And one of my fun exercises, y'all probably already see I'm full of shenanigans, but one of my fun exercises is actually called Freaky Friday. And so, and I know what that sounds like. And it's exactly what you're thinking, where if I'm the hygienist, I am swapping spots with my TC. If I'm the TC, I'm swapping spots with my dental assistant, and I
Yeah, I
really
love that.
organize that. Yeah, so that my and I wanna make sure because we have a cross-trained people who may was a dental assistant, so they already kinda know what it takes to be a dental assistant, but I want you to walk a day in their shoes, and we make it super fun, y'all. So, I would go in and we have, like, a photo of the person, and they wear it like a necklace. We have a sign with the patient, so we let them know, "Hey, today is Freaky Friday, and so here's what you're gonna expect. I'm now your hygienist, but you may know me as your TC." Now, of course, they're not gonna go in and they're not gonna clean the teeth. The hygienist will pop back in, but the goal of it is for them to do some of those tasks that the hygienist would usually do, and vice versa. And what I love about it, the biggest aha moment that happens in classic is insurance. My clinical team would go, "I never wanna call it insurance again," or, "I never want to verify." And then there's, opposite. So, whenever I'm walking into an office that's chaotic, those are the first things in the first 30 days that I wanna clear up. I wanna build that camaraderie, so it's not that front versus back. I want people to really understand and get to know their team members. I'm gonna call myself out. Again, my personality, I have a really direct personality. I'm ADHD, clinically diagnosed, by the way, it's not fake, and I'm dyslexic. So with that, I have a lot of diversity going on in there. And one of my biggest things is someone taking a long time to explain something or me having to figure something out when we're communicating. So I want to be able to figure out in a really HR way, get to learn my team members. What is their love language? If someone quality time or is it acts of service? Then I know if I tell Dr. Sharon that I'm going to do something and I don't do it, instantly her defenses is up because I said I was going to do something, I didn't get it done. If Sydney I lose track of Sydney in a meeting because she's drifted off and she saw a bird over there flying by the window, I know that I have lost Sydney and I gotta bring her back in, so I'm gonna do that by asking her a question. "Hey, Sid, what are your thoughts on" and then now I drew her back into it. So I really wanna get to know team members and how they process information, so the next phase of that and I know this is a long answer, but the next phase of that is one of my favorite questions to ask is if you were putting furniture together, are you going to watch a YouTube video really quick or ask now ChatGPT of how to do that and walk you through it? Or can you look at a piece of paper or the picture and then you put it together? And y'all, my classic one is, and this has seriously happened, I will throw away directions in a heartbeat. And if I look at it and I get the concept and I'm looking at the things, I'm just going to go in and figure it out. And then if I get stuck, I'll jump right on over to YouTube and YouTube will help me out because I just want to get to the bottom line really quickly. And you'll be surprised that when I start asking those questions, people just start giggling and I'm breaking down those defenses so we can really get into the good stuff. And everyone's now like flowing with me. They're understanding. It's not like this pressure, this person's coming in, they're going to tell us what to do. I don't want to tell you what to do. I want to work with you. So that was
Yes,
a
love
long
that.
answer.
No, that was awesome
That's
stuff. Awesome.
I got a couple more good questions. Don't worry, Sydney, and you are knocking them out of the park. The Freaky Friday concept is brilliant. Sharon, I think we should not only use that at mobile dentistry, but also some of the other clients that are using team care. What it also does, and I think that you said this just in different words, is it creates empathy and
Mhm.
perspective and awareness for people to understand the strengths and challenges that come with each job. And when you have everyone that's walked a mile or maybe just a Freaky Friday in someone else's shoes, it creates a better team. You getting the right people in the right seats sounds simple, but it's so much harder in practice. Do you
Yeah.
have, I mean, maybe you just talked about it a little bit, but how do you test for role clarity before you coach a performance issue? So are they in the wrong seat? Or are they the wrong hire? Or is there a leadership gap? So I guess how do you know How do
Oh
you
my
know?
goodness. Yeah, that's a really good question. I love it. There's a two-parter here. So, part 1 is I do want to ask questions. There's a book called How to Have a Good Day. And she talks about I'm really huge right now on behavior science because I got to learn me, but also I really want to learn people. And so in that book, she talks about defenses and how do we keep people naturally as human beings, we are inquisitive people. That's just how we are. So if we can keep people in a discovery mode versus defense mode, then you're more likely to have more collaborative, you're more likely to have like be more productive and more efficient. And so I promise I'm getting to the answer here. When I'm talking with a team member and I'm trying to figure out whether or not this is a leadership problem or if this is a performance, not in the right seat, right place, I'm going to start asking questions. And so my first question is, what gets you super giggity about your job? What do you love about what you do? And I'll get a classic answer, then I'll ask, "What do you hate about your job?" Like, what just makes you wanna headbutt your windshield when you get into the car at the end of the day? And then they'll kinda look around and they'll ask, and this is a perfect example of an office that I was working with. They have a new leadership team. They're trying to put just it's new for them, and they are doing a startup location, but their flagship office, they're wanting to get things in order. And one of the leaders, she said, I love spreadsheets. I love that we keep track of everything. And she was so excited to show me all her spreadsheets because that is my love language too. I love a good dashboard, love everything all being in one spot. However, then we got into I was asking more about, okay, what trips you up? What gets you like super frustrated? And so then her response was, it's just the unknown, those things that we just don't know what's happening. And so what that tells me with her is they do have her in the right spot as a leader because she's over all of the departments. She does all of their operations. She does oversee make sure all of the KPIs are in. She put together all the reports and agendas. So she's super detail oriented and she's a planner. And what really trips her up is when someone comes in and they throw a curveball in there. So I said, if we can avoid a curveball, first, what are some recurring ones? And she gave me a list of those. And then I said, if we could plan for those, how can we, our future selves, think our past self? And then she went in, she was like, well, if we do this, this, and this. And I said, okay, now we got to go and we got to figure out our team. And so it's kind of like one of those things where we just have to ask questions and find out. Now, for me, I love a good spreadsheet, don't get me wrong, but please don't make me put in numbers. I mentioned earlier, I'm dyslexic. And so if my job is to put in checks, if my job is to go in and enter in all of the unscheduled treatment, or if my job is to all those things. I have to have uninterrupted time because I am dyslexic. And if someone comes in and interrupts me, I've lost my train of thought and I now have to go back and I have to start over. And sadly, that is what happens. So I'm able to actually see that with some people. And I notice, and if you ever like, why can't my treatment coordinator just enter in all of these insurance and why is this backwards or something like that? And they may not be dyslexic, but they also may have where if they have to be focused on it and their brain can't jump from one task to another the way that some of us can. And so if that's the case, then if that project is what slows you up, what takes up a lot of time is actually going in and entering all of our treatment presentations. If I was to give you 45 minutes a day uninterrupted, would that help you? Absolutely. So now, me as a leader, I can go in and I can give back to my team member. And I know that's easier said than done in a dental office, especially if we're trying to survive the short staff, down team members. But that's where we go back and we redirect of what's most important. I understand you need to enter these in. However, what's most important is our patient experience. I'm going to tell you, don't worry about that for now. What we'll do is I circle back to it. I'm okay if that's not getting done. Once we get someone hired, we'll go back and we'll put that back on the plate. So then that's what us as leaders have to kind of jump in and redirect and reprioritize that. So there's a two-parter to that. If you are trying to figure out, right people, right seat, is it a leadership problem? Let's first ask questions. And it is going to go back to your earlier question. Let's get to know our team members and understand them. Sydney does a really good job when you tell her what to do. She does not do a good job if I'm just leaving it up to her and now she has to go in and she has to do essentially that decision making. If we can give them that decision making piece, then you'll find that your team members are a little bit more productive than they are if you're like, why can't they just get it? And anytime someone tells me, why can't they just get it? Now I know that that's a leadership problem and not a team member problem, because now we got to figure out how do we delegate tasks. And y'all, delegation has been taken to a whole new level. And let me tell y'all, it is not passing off tasks. It's not saying, Sydney, go call that patient. All right, I'm going to go call that patient, but I'll call him whenever I feel like calling him. Delegation is, Sydney, Cal is coming in for an appointment at 2, and I need to find out whether or not they've taken their pre-meds. Can you give Cal a call before noon today so that if I need to call in that prescription, I'm able to now get that called in and they can go pick it up for their appointment? That's delegation. You've given them the task, the goal, and you've given them a deadline. But if you're leaving it up to Sydney, Sydney's gonna prioritize everything else other than that call. Or I'm ADHD. I wait till the last minute because I do my job the best and it's the last minute. So, yeah.
That is, you know what is really remarkable, Sydney, is the transparency and vulnerability you're showing, even on this podcast and talking about your neurodiversity, which is, I think, a really courageous form of leadership. And it probably, I imagine, in your experience working with practices, you talk about these things, dyslexia and ADHD, and it breaks down some barriers that people might have where they feel like I could be open as well. A bridge that I'm going to attempt to make here to team care, because what would be a team care podcast without mentioning how great we are at least once, is how we leverage transparency in the form of leaderboards and incentives. And I know you know a little bit about team care now, and I'm curious how you see leaderboards where the team can see how everyone's doing and playing in a practice, and what your take is on incentives and how you think they fit into.
Well, okay. I know y'all just met me. I love games, which is why I got super giggity when I saw your leaderboard and I was like, oh my God, because as we're talking about workflows and how I mentioned earlier that I do want to put those in place and I'm on to the next thing. That's how we're going to measure success within whatever we're working on. So if we are wanting to decrease our AR, or if I just got Sydney super excited about being able to convert Invisalign cases, that out of sight, out of mind thing happened, and no one knows whether or not their hard work is paying off. I told you our love language for me could be acts of service. It could be quality time. It could be words of affirmation. Well, your team care dashboard really check a lot of those boxes. Gifts is a love language. So if I know that, hey, I'm leading the leaderboard right now in my Invisalign conversions, y'all, I'm about to get $300. Here we go. So what I like about what you guys are doing is that when I am trying to gamify, or I really want team members to know that their hard work is paying off, you're able to do that with team care by being able to set those benchmarks. And what's super cool is that it's not that out of sight, out of mind. You could utilize that in your monthly or even your morning huddles. Guys, here's who's leading the charge. Y'all better catch up. I have one of my offices that and I know what this sounds like, but I promise they have a really baller office. They're super fun. It's one of my favorite ones, but they like to publicly shame, and they have a like 75-inch television in their conference room. They have a really large team, and they will put on there like who forgot to do their checklist, who did submit their checklist. And when I was talking to the doctor, because there's a husband and wife team, I was talking to them about that, and I was like, how does it make your team members feel? And they was like, Sid, because we incentivize our team, because everybody knows that if you do this, then you're going to be able to receive these things. It's really non existent. We don't have a culture problem. When they first started with me, they did, but now they don't. And so I love that team care. They can, if this office was to use you, they can put that up on their 75-inch television and they're able to see those things where they're leading. But also, I love the third party aspect of it is if we're maybe you're using like a outsourced biller, or like I mentioned, the AI calls or a virtual
Yeah.
assistant. you can add those in there and you're able to really track the success of that. So, me as the hygienist, if I'm like, well, my schedule isn't full because someone's not doing phone calls, well, my hygienist is able to actually see, wait, our virtual assistant did 250 calls and she was able to schedule 7 of those. So you may not see it right then on your schedule for today. You may still have those 4 openings, but it's still getting done. And it's that instant gratification. And there's no guesswork into what's happening. So, alongside with my Freaky Friday and y'all leader dashboard, baller.
I love it. I love it. And that actually brings up an idea that we did talk about months ago, put this back on Colin's roadmap to create more of a marketplace similar to if you have credit card points and you can also redeem experiences versus just a direct payout.
Yeah.
That's something that Team Care should definitely look into because we already have the foundation built for sure. One last question for you. For those that are listening and feel like their practice is stuck, what is your first 5-minute move to kind of restart momentum, to get energy back in there, to get that giggity that using one of your terms? What's a last tip that you want to leave everyone with?
Yeah. Well, with it being the end of the year or in beginning of the year, I would have to say do a recalibration meeting, someplace that's off site. Again, I know sometimes that's easier said than done. Off site, not in the office where the phones are ringing. You're looking at, you can drift off and you have patients that's staring into the door, wanting to get into the office. If you really want to just kind of reset and figure out what you're working towards, I would say do a calibration meeting that is offsite, a neutral place, someplace that's fun, break down those barriers. Let's do that first. And then in that meeting, find out where you are, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there. The how you're going to get there, who all does it involve. That way, everybody have a clear expectation of what's to come and how their involvement, how they're going to help us all achieve those goals. So, yeah, hopefully that answered that pretty good.
It nailed it. Sydney Robinson, thank you so much for joining the Extraction Podcast. For those listening, and if you're picking up what Sydney is putting down, please check out dentalteamclarity.com. Book a discovery call with Sydney, a wealth of knowledge, and we're so excited to have as a part of the Team Care ecosystem.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate the opportunity. This is cool.
Our pleasure. Thank you for listening to The Extraction with Colin Ambler and Kyle Bergman. Read episode notes and transcripts at teamcaredental.com.